Wow, that is the best I've done yet with this thing. Wow, nice. Hey guys, review time for the SinoArt or SinoArt 68-inch recurve Olympic style bow. This is $110 on Amazon. I do apologize for the long review, but it has to be done in order to help you guys out. Anyways, so like I said, 110 bucks, and that's Canadian dollars, so far cheaper in the States. This is like the best bang for the buck bow in this style of a bow. Okay, so if you're looking for an Olympic style bow and you're strictly sticking to targeting and you want this sort of thing in this size too, because 68 inches is pretty tall, then yeah, it's like really good choice to get you into that sort of thing without breaking the bank. A lot of people, they get into archery too, and then they just give it up because it's like, I can't do this, I can't do this. Well, maybe you should have sights if you can't do instinctive archery, or if you can't do gap shooting, like I can't seem to pull off. Well, sights are handy. It comes with sights. I can do instinctive to a certain point. It's a long, long process to train yourself for instinctive shooting, but to have a sight on here, you can be shooting great numbers in no time at all, even with this bow. Anyways, I am going to dedicate a video strictly to these style of sights though, because I think it's absolutely necessary. But I'm going to tell you, it comes with 2 limbs. Now, you can buy this in 20 pound right up to 36 pound, okay? But I'm going to give you a word of advisement, okay? This thing has a maximum draw length of 32 inches, okay? And in this style and this length of bow, okay, you lose half a pound of your limb ratio per inch that you are not drawing. So if you're only a 28-inch draw like me, which is fine, okay, you're going to lose 2 pounds. Okay, so I get 26 out of 28-pound limbs. I didn't want a high-powered bow, so I didn't want the 36 pounds, okay? I didn't want the 30-pound version, and I definitely didn't want 20, because I know that there's some math behind this when it comes to the maximum draw length of the bow, and I know with any of these recurve or traditional style bows, long bows, etc., that if you are not drawing or able to draw to the maximum length, you are not going to get the full potential of that bow for that weight. So if you need to get to that weight that you are after, you need to buy a little bit more poundage in order to get you to that. So if I wanted to get 28 pounds, I should have ordered the 38 or the 30-pound version, and I would have gotten 28 pounds out of a 30-pound set of limbs, because I'm only a 28-inch draw, and taking away 4 inches away from 32 down to 28, I lost 2 pounds. In this case, I'm going to lose 2 pounds on the other one, because every single bow in its weight category from SinoArt, that is the one you buy from the site for the bow range of poundage, if you are not a 32-inch draw, every inch you don't draw is a half a pound. So do the math and then order accordingly, okay? Now, a different bow length would change how much you lose for every inch you don't draw, all right? So even if you're a 27-inch draw, that's an extra inch. That means that you're going to be at 25 and 25 and a half pounds out of 28-pound limbs. You getting the idea here? Okay. Now you should be at least, I would say, on the absolute lowest for your body height, nothing less than 5'7". Okay. Honestly, if you are any shorter than 5'7", this is probably not going to work for you, because this is a 68-inch bow. This thing's as tall as I am pretty much. Okay. I'm just a little hair taller when this thing is strung up. And I'm 5'9", so it's a pretty big bow. If I hold this thing straight out into a shooting position in this room standing up, the limb tip up top hits my ceiling tiles, okay? That gives you a bit of an idea how big this bow actually is in reality, okay? So, getting on with that, you're going to get a set of limbs, you're going to get a riser, you're going to get a pile of pieces to assemble for the T-sight. I call it a T-bar sight. You're definitely going to get a string. You will get a plastic hook rest with a 3M double-sided sticky to stick it to the riser so that you can shoot off the hook, okay? And you place it, well, the hole is covered, but where the burger hole is here, you line up the center hole of that hook rest to the hole here, and that's where you place it, okay? Now, I've got a different type of rest system on here altogether. I bought this as an experimental bow for trying different types of rests, especially for being able to shoot plastic vanes or feathers, because buying arrows with feathers is more costly than buying the exact same precise arrow that has plastic fletches. There is a cost difference, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. Now, as far as the rest of the thing goes, you're going to get a string, you're going to get a couple knocks for knocking points, but you're not going to get any pliers. Now, you can use regular pliers to put these things on. It can be done, okay? It's a lot easier with a proper tool. So if you are just getting into archery, and this is where you're starting to, but even if you are into archery, period, you should already have the necessary tools like a proper set of knocking pliers. You should have a brace height tool gauge as well, which you're going to need because you need to set your brace height properly, and that means that you have a minimum of 8.3 inches to 9.5 inches. I am at 8.5 inches because that's where I want it and that's where I'm comfortable with shooting it, and it works great. Now, you're also going to get a stringer. You are going to get an arm guard. You're going to get a finger tab release. They give you everything but arrows to get you going, and they don't give you any bow wax. You're going to need some bow wax. All right, so order some bow wax while you're at it too. And if you don't already have that little kit, you can get a small kit that comes with the brace height tool. It's going to come with some extra knocking points, the pliers, etc. It's a little kit, costs you about 20 bucks. Okay, it's not expensive, but it works. All right, and then if you want higher end stuff later, go ahead. Anyway, but you got to know where your brace height sits, so you're going to need a brace height tool, okay? Anyhow, with the string, it has to be waxed, obviously. Even the first time, you got to wax that string, but you don't wax the string until you put the twists in it, okay? Now, here's a little bit of a complicated procedure here. On every kind of a traditional bow or recurve or longbow, you're going to have a big loop and a little loop on your string. And the big loop always goes over top the top limb. So because you're going to be using a stringer, okay, most people do, all right, it's safer and it avoids limb twisting. But you're going to put the big loop over this tip first on the top limb, and then you're going to come over to this end and you're going to twist this string 12 to 15 times, okay? And that's the initial twist. Then you're going to hook it onto here, hold this down in place, take your stringer that came with, okay, and you're going to put it on. There's a little pocket here. Open up the pocket with your thumb, slip it over while you're holding that in place. This way you know that that is now not going to move, and it holds nice and firm, which is nice. Take this end, go to the other end. I have shown you guys this already on how to use this, use a stringer. I didn't use this one because I was a little paranoid because I had heard about self-destruction on this stringer that has happened. Now, according to the instructions that came with this thing, they're showing the first version that looks exactly the same. The difference is they never sewed the paracord to the leather, and it was actually this part of the leather, so it was doing everything in reverse, and the paracord sat underneath, not this way so that it would grab. So they've changed things over so that now it goes over the limb, and it should now look like this, which is different from the picture they still give us in the instructions, which cannot be done because, well, they sewed the paracord on. They fixed the problem. So now there is no way this stringer is going to break on you. And now, instead of having the smooth, slippery side touching your limbs, which would be useless, now they've got the grabby side of the leather, which now sits on the top of the limb where it should be. And there's no way this thing's going to break on you when you're stringing the bow. Okay? So they did fix that problem, thankfully enough. The arm guard is a cheap arm guard, but it works, okay? And it's a starting point if you don't already have a quality arm guard. that arm guard works just fine. I've not even hit myself in the arm to hit the arm guard. Once you learn how to shoot any traditional style bow, even these Olympic style ones, which are basically a traditional more or less, but they're just a different type of bow, obviously. Once you learn how to shoot these or even compounds properly without torquing, you will never need an arm guard again. But until you do, and until you're very successful at it, always wear an arm guard, because believe me, getting whipped by a string freaking hurts like hell, okay? And worse on a compound. But even these things can be pretty nasty too, so make sure you use the arm guard, okay? Now, the assembly instructions are kind of stupid for the T-bar sight. They give you a reference of, look at the website, and that's what it should generally look like. Well, I did it the way they generally had it set up, and I ran out of a lot of range for my elevation that way. So I thought, okay, well, there's got to be another picture. And there was another picture on the instructions, which is different from another picture. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do this. So I redid everything, and this is exactly how mine is set up. Okay? Now, you got to press those nuts into the holes firmly. So get yourself a flat blade screwdriver to push them down all the way in, and make sure you put this part on last, okay? Be smart about it. Then you'll have 2 Phillips screws or star screws, whatever you want to call them, at this side, and those screw into those nuts. And they have to be placed that far apart because that's the way the whole orientation is between here and here. So make sure that you allow for that. Otherwise, you're going to have to pop one of your nuts out and start over and get in the right spot. This bar here is your in and out, okay? Now, when you unscrew this, you can actually put this thing in as far as it'll actually go, which ends you about here. And you still have plenty of room for your string. It's going to completely stay away from there. Now, this, on the other hand, the closer you put this in, the more you're pointing to the sky, okay? So, and up is down and down is up. Now, currently the way I run this thing with this bar all the way out, which I can go to here or I can go to here, but whatever hole I pick, I'm going to raise elevation by a certain amount, okay? So keep that in mind. But out here like this exact setting puts me at 10 yards, okay? No problem. Now, with this sight too, I'm also going to recommend that you don't use the in and out, okay? Other than maybe center it. So what you want to do is you want to actually, you don't even have to unlock this initially. You just turn this clockwise to go that way, counterclockwise puts you the other way. Put this around the center. I'm still going to have to adjust this myself, but put it toward the center. This way it gives you a little bit of finer tuning range, because otherwise what you got to do to set your windage on this is unlock this screw and then manually turn this thing either in to go that way or out to go that way, because you got to set your windage for your arrows, okay? And repeat, repeat, repeat as far as where you're aiming at so that you're going to get your windage correct in the end. And then you can lock this back down, and then just if you need to fine tune, you'll have fine tuning room left or right, okay? Right now I haven't allowed for that, so that was my own bad. But I'm still learning this sight system. And I picked the brains of my guy at their archery store, and he told me every possible thing I need to know about these kind of sight systems and how they work. I will go through that in a specific video with you guys at another time. But that's a rundown of the basics of this sight, okay? And when you're shooting, you don't have a peephole, so you're actually pulling back and you're looking at that sight. Now, if you can look through that little tiny hole and line it up that way, fine. I use the outer side because, well, it's just the way my eyes happen to work at distances and stuff, so I tend to use the whole outer as a circle, and that's how I aim with this right now anyways, so I can get a better quality one. I want to get one of the really good metal ones. But anyhow, the only, oh yeah, before I get to that, these are hand tighten only, so you unscrew them after you de-string it. You screw them in, and then you unscrew them by hand. If for some reason you put too much tension on, they did provide holes through each bolt. You could jam a Allen key through there that'll fit the hole, or a screwdriver that'll fit the hole, and then you can break it free if you've over tightened or having a problem getting them undone when you're going to put the whole thing away in pieces again. And that's fantastic because not every company does that, so that's actually bonus. If you want to shoot off the shelf, I would recommend getting one of these basic kits. You know, they work fine. This is probably the cheapest one on the market. It's not even real animal hair, so it doesn't even matter which direction you go with this. It's fine. I verified that with my guy yesterday too, because I was like, I know I put it on backwards, right? Because of the way the carpet goes. And he says it makes no difference with this version. If you are running like, you know, a literal animal haired one, that has longer hair, that does make a difference which direction. So pay attention. Don't do it unless you have no headache and you're fully functional. I was not fully functional. I had a headache, but he said, you're okay. It doesn't affect anything on this particular one. And this is the Bear Archery brand one. But anyhow, so the only problem I've had with this bow is just one. I used my Cartel stabilizer. It's 28 inches, got a lot of weight to it, and I torqued it in pretty tight, okay? Now, even though it's got a plastic washer there to not damage anything, well, I started to undo it, and it unthreaded the whole friggin' bushing. And so the bushing is threaded in, but they didn't glue it in as well at the factory. They just screwed it in there, and it's like, great, we got like, you know, that much thread, which is fantastic, but it came undone. So I had to break it free. There's multiple ways to do it, but because I have tools, I have a wood vise. I just clamped it into my wood vise and gave the tube a crank counterclockwise, broke it free, unscrewed it, put the bushing back in, threaded it in. No, I did not. Not right away. I threw a bunch of wood glue on those threads first, and then I started to screw it in by hand, and then the rest of it I had to twist my stabilizer back on gently so I didn't over torque, and I kept breaking it free, turn it in, break it free, turn it in, until this came flush again. And I have not put the stabilizer back in since, because I wanted to let it sit for a few days, because there's no air getting at the glue. It's going to take a lot longer cure time, but at least now it should stay without a problem. So lesson learned. Okay, don't over torque your stabilizer, just until it's just a little snug, and you'll be fine. Otherwise, you'll be going through the same process. But that is the only problem I've had with this bow, okay? So, other than that, there's not much I can tell you. Buy a 20-pound version, right on up to 36-pound. Make sure if you're buying a left-handed, you click on the little picture that's left-handed. If you want right-handed, click on the little picture that says right-handed. And then select your weight from there that you want for the limbs. And remember, if you're not a 32-inch draw, minus 1/2 pound per every inch that you do not draw. Okay, and you need to draw to an anchor point, so you need to know ahead of time, where's my anchor point? I'm at 28 inches as a left-handed shooter. I am at 27 inches as a right-handed shooter, because I shoot both ways. Okay, so I know that with this style of bow and at this length of bow, I lose exactly 1/2 pound per inch. Where another bow that may be shorter in length, I may end up losing more than that. It could be 1 pound. It could be 3/4 pound. It could be 2 pounds per inch. Depends on the bow, depends on the design of the bow, etc. How much I'm going to lose off of these style of bows. Compounds are a completely different beast altogether, and that requires a whole other video. In the meantime, though, the arrows that I was shooting, by the way, I promised I would mention, those are 500 spine, 28-inch shaft-to-shaft cut with 100-grain tips. They weigh 320 grains apiece. Those arrows run really good. They're from Acmos Archery. You can get them on Amazon. All right, by the dozen, $57.99, I think it was, Canadian for a dozen of them. They are fantastic arrows. I love them. I love dealing with Acmos for my arrows. But I do also deal with my dealer for some arrows too that I need. So, because I like to give him some money too, because he does help me out an awful lot. But I also want to experiment with different quality ranges of arrows other than the made in China stuff. And I'm finding some interesting results, which we'll go through in another video. But those are the arrows. Now, the other arrows we shot yesterday, they're both 400 spine. They are 390 grain each. The one with feathers obviously shot beautiful off the shelf. The other one, not so much, which we already know all about that and why we don't shoot plastic vanes off of traditional bows without a proper rest to support plastic vanes. But yeah, otherwise you're shooting feathers. And those are 390 grain each. And they were matched cut and match weighted for me so that we could have a very fair test in that aspect. So I'm not going to recommend 700 spined arrows like I'm shooting the Predators. They would probably work better at 20-pound limbs, which they do work really good, 20 pounds shooting off of the hook rest on my Nighthawk, but 26 pounds worth of mayhem coming out of this seems to be too much for them. They don't group very well at all. So I'm kind of like, well, unless I use the Tri-Biscuit, they do group much better, but I don't want to have to be stuck with that particular thing. I am doing experiments with this bow to find out, A, what works best with setups that people would use, and then I'm going to make my decision in the end what I'm going to end up using, which I don't think in the end that I will be using a brush biscuit type of rest on this thing. I will opt out for probably something different, or I may even stay exactly where I am right now with this kind of a setup on my shelf. And yes, it is a horizontal shelf, which is common to be found in Olympic style bows. So, but other than that, I would have to rate this thing. I'm going to give this thing a 4.5 out of 5. To be honest, I think it deserves it. Okay, 100%. It is a really decent bow for the money. I mean, I didn't expect this good for $110 brand new, which would be like probably what, $75 for you guys in the States. The plastic sight, it works great, but I do want to upgrade it to something better like metal, okay? And I've been picking out a few things. I just got to figure out what I'm going to settle on. But other than that, if you have any other questions about this bow, feel free to ask. There's a lot of things I did not cover in this video. You will find that information out on the Amazon link in the description below to find out more about the spec line of this bow, all the stuff that comes with it, etc., etc. You'll find out more about the woods that are being used on this bow as well, and so on. But just remember, you're going to need yourself some knocking pliers, even though it comes with a couple of knocks. I would recommend knocking pliers, and you can buy a kit that has the pliers, the knocks, and the brace height tool, like I said, very cheaply. You're going to need bow wax too. And in the end result, like I said, I've got more than 60 turns into this string, and it's holding good and solid. But you got to start at 12 to 15, let it stretch, keep an eye, check it, etc., etc. Okay, and at all the turns I've got in this string, like I said, I'm at about an 8.5 inch brace height right now, and I'm quite happy with that. It works perfectly fine for me. You may want 9 inch, you may want 9.5, but you cannot exceed 9.5 apparently. And you can't go below 8.3 or things don't work right either. So there you go. Anyways, bows are bows, I guess, right? They're all different. So thanks for watching. Sorry for the long video. Like I said, had to get the information for you. And I know I still missed a few things because I could sit here for over an hour and then get right into all nitty gritties and other stuff, but we don't need to do that. Oh, and check my archery playlist as well on YouTube. Everything I do archery related will be in that playlist. And there's a lot of stuff there already, and there's a lot more to come. See ya.